a big update to share with you guys on Latisha. As many of you guys may know, about 7 weeks ago, Latisha went to court and she agreed to do this plea deal because she's facing multiple felony charges, from a 2024 felony theft charge, and then she has a 2025 felony forgery charge from when she allegedly stole this lady's personal information and decided to get a house in this lady's name. And so now she's being sued for that, along with felony identity theft and misdemeanor marijuana possession. Since Latisha has previous felony convictions, as part of this plea deal, she has to agree to get tried as a habitual offender, which that means she's looking at a minimum of 3 years in prison before she'll be eligible for parole. So she's looking at prison time no matter what. And so she agrees to all this. And then her sentencing date is supposed to be on July 30th, where they're going to sentence her to her prison time. But now Latisha has decided that she's going to try to get her plea deal thrown out. So shout out to Sarcasm. They're the ones that broke this exclusive story. So Latisha, on Tuesday, she decided to go to the courts, and she's like, yeah, so when I decided to agree to the plea deal, I didn't really understand what I was agreeing to. She's pretty much blaming pressures from the courts because of her court date coming up and her having to hurry up and come to a decision. She said because of that she wasn't thinking clearly, and she also has growing concerns about the state's evidence, and she feels like she has certain evidence that as she presents to the court will immediately throw out her case, which I'm not buying, because I'm like, okay, if that's the case, then why haven't you presented this to the court already? Because you could have presented that to the court at the very beginning. This is what Latisha said in her motion, which was shared by Sarcasm. She said, after having time to fully process everything, I realized that part of my decision making was heavily influenced by the immediate pressure of the Monday trial date. At the time, I understood it was a global plea, but I now realize the theft case was the matter actually set for trial, while the other cases were still scheduled further out. I'm struggling with whether I would have made a different decision had I fully separated the timelines mentally and understood I still would have the opportunity to litigate the forgery/identity theft matters later instead of resolving everything together at once. I've continued reviewing the facts, and I have growing concerns about the strength of the state's evidence and the credibility issues surrounding key witnesses. One thing that continues to stand out to me is that the alleged victim portrayed herself as someone completely uninvolved in wrongdoing, yet there are surrounding circumstances that I believe could be relevant to impeachment and credibility at trial. Oh my gosh. I mean, they literally said in court documents that they have evidence. They have signed leases that Latisha herself filled out, and she signed in this lady's name. So there's multiple documents of forged evidence that Latisha allegedly did that was submitted to the courts, and there was also multiple statements from witnesses like the landlord who said, yeah, I can confirm 100% that Latisha signed this paperwork in someone else's name, and Latisha was the one who handed me the paperwork, and Latisha was the one that was living in the house. I mean, Latisha literally filmed for the show Love After Lockup while living in that house, so it's kind of hard to deny that you weren't living up in that house. And I think that's risky for her to go to trial. I mean, look at Jeffrey Paschal from 90 Day Fiance. He was looking at only 4 months of probation for his charges if he would have just took the plea deal. But no, he wanted to be hard-headed. He thought he could beat the odds. He thought he could manipulate the judge like he had manipulated all these women over the years. And it didn't work out, and he ended up getting 18 years when he could have just got 4 months of probation. And I wouldn't be shocked if the judge does something similar with Latisha. The judge is going to be even more offended, I think, if Latisha tries taking this to trial, as she is guilty. Latisha's attorney tried to tell the courts, look, she was under the pressure of the trial. She may have not entered into this plea agreement. She wasn't under pressure. I mean, but no matter what, you're always going to have a court date coming up to where you're going to have to come to some kind of decision on what you're going to have to do or what you're going to do. Latisha has a court date on June 19th to address her motion that she recently filed for. So I'm curious to see what ends up happening with that. But I speculate, this is just pure assumption, that she's doing this for one of numerous reasons. I think it could be either one, she's really so delusional that she thinks that she could fight this, and even with the overwhelming amount of evidence against her, she thinks that somehow she can talk in circles long enough or throw the judge off and they might get confused and not focus on what really happened. Kind of like what Latisha does in her interviews. I'm sure that's the same way she's going to talk in the courtroom. And that's what I've heard from people who've experienced her in the courtroom before. Colleen said that Latisha did the same thing and she was bad about talking in circles, and the judge would kind of get annoyed and want to be straight to the point. I think she thinks, okay, well, I'm going to be looking at prison time. If I do the plea deal, and I'll get 3 years. Well, at least if I fight it, I have a chance that I may get out of it. And I think she thinks that she really is going to get out of it one way or another. Or if she does get found guilty, I think she thinks, oh, if I do take that risk, then maybe they're going to give me around the same amount of time. But no, I'm sure if she ends up getting found guilty, they're going to give her more than that 3 years just to stick it to her. In my opinion, I think this is a terrible decision on Latisha's part. I just would have took the plea deal, got my 3 years, got it over with, and not risk more time over my head. Like, what are you going to do if they give you 5-10 years? I know Keith's not going to stick around for that long, and she probably is scared he's not going to stick around for 3 years, and that's why she's kind of scrambling right now to try to figure out what else she can figure out. I think if it's not that, then she's just trying to stall and buy more time, and I just believe that or assume that because of what she's done in court before, like when she would do the bankruptcy stall tactic, like with Colleen's case. Like, she admitted in an interview that her past cases, like when she'd be sued by people, she would suddenly claim, okay, I'm gonna file for bankruptcy, and she would keep saying every week, I'm gonna file for bankruptcy, and then like the court should be like, okay, you need to file for bankruptcy if you want this court to get put off, and then she'd be like, okay, and then the next time they go to court, she'd be like, yeah, well, I plan on doing it, but I haven't got the paperwork yet. And after so many weeks and months of her doing that, the judge was like, ma'am, it's apparent that you've made zero effort to file for bankruptcy, so we're gonna throw this out. But this was only after Colleen ended up finding an interview. Colleen was her victim that she stole 7,000. No, was it 7,000 or 11,000? I think it was 11,000. God, there's been so many people she's stolen from. I get the numbers mixed up now. But Colleen, she spoke out and she said that she watched an interview that Latisha did with Kiki and Kibitz, where she admitted that in the past she had used like bankruptcy filings, like fraudulent bankruptcy filings, as a stall tactic in her cases to try to get her cases put off as long as possible. She tried to do that to Colleen, and then once Colleen got that clip of Latisha admitting that she did that in past cases, Colleen showed the judge in her case, because that's what they believed she was doing, and the judge was like, yeah, that's exactly what it looks like she's trying to do here. And they ended up throwing out her bankruptcy filing attempts because she was stalling for months, and after there's evidence of her admitting to using this as a stall tactic, I wouldn't be shocked if she's trying to use this as another stall tactic and thinks, okay, let me sit there and act like I don't want to do this plea deal. Then June 19th comes and she has her court date and she's like, yeah, I want to take this to trial. And then at the last minute, after they decide to change it to trial, she goes, oh no, I want to switch it back to plea deal, thinking like they're going to have to restart the whole process over again and it's going to take months, and this is just her buying more time. If she does end up pulling something like that at her next court date, or she does try to like switch it to trial and then tries to switch it back to plea deal again, then I'm definitely going to be like, yeah, it definitely looks like she's trying to buy time here. But I'm definitely curious to see how everything ends up playing out. But let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments below. Do you guys think this is a smart move on Latisha's part? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.